All right, welcome back to Amka Kenya. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Amka Politalks. Of course, we continue the conversation this morning, trying to make sense of the events in the country and the state of the nation and affairs here in the country. A lot has been happening from the opposition all the way to the government, and the rhetoric from the political class, including President William Ruto's statement yesterday. And the question that we are asking you this particular morning has to do with whether he needs more time to deliver, because that's what the government supporters are actually asking for, that the president should be given enough time to be able to deliver on his promises. Does he have even that time? Does he need that time? And of course, to continue with this conversation, I do have Kuria Kariuki here, who is a political analyst. And of course, joining us online, we have Professor Alfred Omenya, who is also joining us to help us make sense of what is happening in the country. I don't know if I start with Prof or I continue with Kuria here. Prof, if you can hear me, let me just throw this to you. The question that you are asking Kenyans on our socials is whether the president needs more time to deliver on his promises. And this is based on what he was saying yesterday as far as the opposition coalition is concerned and him having a proper plan for the country. What do you make of that?
The president is shooting himself on the foot on this one, Brian, because, if he has a plan, then clearly he should have known that the timelines for delivery of his plan, he should have known what is possible within a year, what is possible within 5 years, what is possible within 10 years. And coming to claim at the same, in the same breath that you have a plan, and then on the other hand, asking for more time to deliver becomes very problematic sell. As it were, it is the president who made the commitments. It is the president who made the promises. It is the president who set up the timelines. So I don't think the issue of being given more time to deliver even arises in the first instance. He should just be able to explain what he has done within the time period that is been given, and what and what he intends to do and how. I think, Brian, one of the things that is very around this is that the political class believe in these empty promises, and I think the president is caught up in the same thing, that you make a lot of promises with no intention of delivering anything, and then politics becomes an end in itself. The president then focuses on winning elections, regardless of whether he performed or not. Mm-hmm. And that is the sad reality in Kenyan politics, that the politicians actually promise things that they know very well that they're not tenable, and they know that, if they're judged against their own benchmarks as to what they were to deliver, they would fail miserably. But then after that, we've seen situations where the politicians now shift to all sorts of shenanigans, giving cash to people, buying pastors, ridiculously expensive vehicles, and stuff like that, that should not be happening in any civilized society. All these things are meant to be, delivered by the state. Yeah, so I think the president actually is shooting himself in the foot as far as I'm actually concerned. He did promise. Of course, it's impossible to be the president of a country and fail to deliver some things. The amount of money we pay in taxes is too much that some stuff will actually be delivered. But I think a good audit of what President Ruto promised versus what is delivered, leaves a lot to be desired. And I think he's accepting that he's failed as a president, again, which I don't think helps his cause that much. So really, if the president needs more time to deliver, if I were to advise the electorate, I would tell them, don't give him. It is basically, somebody who has failed, but he's saying, fine, if you give me 10 attempts, I might pass. What is the guarantee in the future that this candidate would actually pass? So as far as I'm concerned, the president is starting to recognize his own failures. But on the other hand, like I've said, really, the way he's playing his politics, he's not too bothered about what he said he would actually do, and the extent to which he's done them is been superficial at best. What we've seen is basically wanting to stay in power using political calculations and machinations rather than the actual task that we gave him as a people of Kenya to deliver. And unfortunately, it's not just the president; it's all of them. It is members of parliament, it is governors, all of them are basically moving around playing politics instead of saying, okay, fine, this is the reality, this is our situation, this is what is possible, and I've done, what I could actually do within that particular situation. And then, of course, just generate another new plan. If that plan sells to Kenyans, they'll vote you in. Actually, another sad thing that he's not developing an alternative plan is actually, they're all just organizing, arranging ethnic politics and sectarian politics so that they cling on to power, which is unfortunate. But
right. You've spoken about the issue to do with the president having failed. And of course, there's a statement that he issued yesterday in regards to what former CJ David Maraga did say in regards to whether Kenya is a failed democracy or not. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on what he has done and why we think that he has actually failed to deliver on his some of his promises. There's an argument that he did overpromise or just didn't have a proper plan when it comes to focusing all his energy on some of the promises that he made to the people of Kenya. So was it overpromising or just lack of a plan to focus on what he had promised?
I think, and I'll add on the third one. Number one, he overpromised. He promised heaven and could not even deliver Kariobangi. Apologies in advance to the people of Kariobangi. He said he had a plan, and we're not seeing that plan. But I think I want to add a third bit that he also eroded what was already there. Let me start with the third point. Kenya had made very good progress in terms of democratic credentials, in terms of a rule of law, in terms of separation of power, in terms of constitutionalism. Things like Harambes were things that we thought were forever gone. Kenya had made excellent progress on education, free education in primary schools. We were already working on free education in secondary schools. University education had some issues, but indeed that was those very high levels of rationalization. Kenya did have a health system that had challenges, but it has been working for ages through the National Social Security, National Hospital Insurance Fund, and of course there are very many other areas, but let me focus on those. What does the president do when he actually gets into power? He comes in and totally disorganizes the funding of education, that now we no longer can be able to even, kids are dropping out of school in primary school. I mean, secondary schools are not getting their funding. University funding was abandoned halfway. What was being implemented as the CBE is a sham. Yeah, so in a way, we've gone backwards on education. On health, the same thing. I mean, we have got Charshi, and these people are actually going all over the place telling people that those things are working. Kenyans actually know that they're actually not working. So again, we've actually gone backwards on that. Of course, more concerning now, things that didn't even happen in Moi's time. When you're talking about abductions, when you're talking about this charade where tens, very soon hundreds of youth are being paraded for being terrorists. For just going to the streets and demanding what their rights and what is sensible. These abductions and murders by the state. This is actually serious erosion of our democracy. So to start with, the president has taken us backwards. So we need to come back to zero, to ground zero where we were before, even before we start thinking about progressing. Secondly, in terms of a promising, the president actually there's nothing that the president promised that he's been able to deliver absolutely. The president promised Kenya heaven actually, and be it the things that he was talking about on border people, when he was talking about small micro enterprises, when he was talking about interest rates for loans. There's a whole lot of things that he promised there in the economy. What they point out is actual prices of a few food items that we know a lot of them are actually driven by seasonality of supply of foods rather than prudent government policy as it actually were. And we don't see much there. Let me use my pet area, affordable housing. The president did promise 250,000 affordable housing, and he's been making a lot of loud noises about what he's been able to deliver in that particular area. As it is now, he said he was going to do 250,000 per year. This is the third year, so we should be on track to achieving 750,000 units if he was to deliver 100%. And as it is, government has delivered just about 6,000 houses, and all the contracts, the ones that have been contracted, are maybe around 130,000, basically a half of his annual promise in terms of what has been contracted. In terms of what has been delivered, it is 6,000 against 250,000 units. That is less than 1%. Yeah. So the thing is that I liken the president with the student who's sitting exams and gets 1%, and goes and makes a lot of noises how they got a question right. I don't ask him what is the pass mark for this particular exam. Really, to be honest, I don't think there is any area where the president did promise and indeed delivered. Of course, more concerning is plethora of promises that the president made to the poor people in this country, to the so-called border riders, and so on. The bottom-up economic model that was touted by the president and his allies. And I think part of the problem there was just deceit, plain lies. And really nothing has been delivered there. And still talking about lies, the president told us the other day that 400,000 Kenyans were taken abroad. Simple calculations would tell you that this actually runs into hundreds of thousands of Kenyans daily. And what we're wondering is, how did they go abroad? Were they walking? The country doesn't even have enough flights to take that many people, to fly that many people out of the country. Yeah, so it is a regime that is actually plagued with lies and bad behavior. Of course, we are seeing corruption becoming more endemic, and so on. So my second point is that indeed the president did overpromise, and the president has delivered next to nothing. Really, I mean, if you're being honest, Kenyans, I don't think Ruto has delivered for me, even as a working class individual. Last but not least, let's come to the so-called plan. I think it is time that President Ruto abandoned the so-called plan because it is not working. Common sense tells you if you run an organization, if you run an entity, and you create a plan, and 2 years, 3 years down the line, you've not been able to deliver anything within that plan, then either you're a very useless human being or your plan is problematic, or both. So if the president cannot deliver this plan, my counsel to him would be, please abandon this plan. Abandon this plan, develop a different plan, especially if you're thinking about re-election. Just come to Kenyans and tell them, look here, guys, what I thought was possible was not possible. I was being naive. Of course, you have to put it in a politically quoted way. I'm just using this because I'm on TV now. But just come and say, look, we have an alternative. We've learned. We've had our insights. We thought a number of things were possible, but they're actually not. Some things are only possible in the medium term. Some things, and we've been able, so that we can forgive him. He can say we've been able to refine our plan so that it doesn't say that it's a new plan, and then focus on a few key things that you can actually do. And indeed, there are a few areas where there's been bits of continuity, and we're very happy about that. But at the same time, it's not strong enough. And that's, for example, the area of infrastructure, roads specifically. This is something that started off in Kibaki's time, went on in Uhuru's time. That is one area where President Ruto can actually refine his thinking about that and take that a little bit further in terms of infrastructure. Yeah, but indeed, these areas where you see a little bit of activity happening are actually few and far between. Yeah, so basically that is is my position that indeed the 3 points that I'm making, and I think I need to reiterate them. One, that it is indeed true that the country has gone backwards, and we will need to recover, as quickly as we can. Secondly, the promises that the president made are either not tenable, or he doesn't have the competence, or he doesn't have the people with the competence to deliver them, and it is time that he actually looks at these promises.
Okay.
And lastly, as somebody who also dabs in planning, planning is actually vision of the future, but it is visions of possible futures. The president needs to now take a reality check. He needs to take a rain check, go back to his plan, review it, and present it, given that I suspect he might be asking for more time. In fact, he's already asked for more time, that one, so that you can escape the one-term brigade.
Okay.
Back to you, Brian.
All right, of course, thank you, Prof. Let me come to Kuria here in studio and just, try to, from what Prof is saying, we can go back and say, we promised this, we have failed to deliver. Kindly do understand us from this particular angle. We thought it was possible, but it seems that it is not possible to be able to deliver on some of the things that we actually did promise you. As we finalize on this conversation on the state of affairs in the country, does he have that luxury of coming back to the people and explaining to them, I seem to have overpromised you some of these things?
I want to say something out of context, is that serving is spiritual. Serving humanity, serving in leadership is same as serving to God.
Okay.
What President Ruto right now needs to do is to reconnect with people, the same way he did in coming elections. What he has lost is the connection between him and his citizens and the country itself. He has lost that power. Every time he stood, you see people are just, it's going to be lies.
Okay.
What he needs to do right now is come back and reconnect to the people, build on the promise that be honest. He should be honest with Kenyans and tell them, yes, there are things we said were going to be done. Give us reasons why they're not done, and tell us why you need another term. Not because opposition has no plan or there's no better person to replace you. Okay. There are better people to replace him. But now what he should do is just reconnect with the country. He should find why. Why are people angry? Why are people not believing anything I'm saying? Of course, we can see there's some work he's doing. He's some of his policies, some of, like Prof have said, the houses we've seen that he's given out, the houses are being built all over every county. How does he gain the trust of Kenyans, knowing that Kenyans should know this property is going to come back to them? And those who are being taxed, because that is where the pain is. Anybody whose pay slip is being deducted the housing levy, they have that pain. He should come to them and explain to them the reasons behind and what is going to work and how they are going to benefit. Because every taxation should benefit us as citizens. So not only a few individuals, because right now you feel like it's going to benefit a few individuals who are close to him or who are close to power or friends. So the president needs to come down and reconnect. Honesty. Tell Kenyans, yes, this didn't work, and this is the reason why it didn't work.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Prof, let me engage you, as I think I have about 5 minutes to be able to finish this conversation. There's something that was spoken about in terms of the state of affairs in the country, and we started with the issue of opposition. I had asked Kuria that particular question in regards to what is happening in as far as the ODM party is concerned, and whether they are like, the Ruto-Raila pact could actually save President William Ruto. Now you're saying, okay, from what he's done already, he's failed to some extent. He still has 2 years. Will the coalition, or rather the working relationship that they have with the ODM party, can it save him in this particular regard?
Brian, it is very sad, and I did insinuate that we actually have a scenario where the president is now using politics and political formations and political shenanigans and so on to be able to save his presidency and also to win him a second term. This is, I would liken it with somebody who is in a game, and instead of playing the game, they sort of try to look for loopholes in the game to win. They try to figure out whether the goalpost was bigger. They try to figure out whether the referee could be disqualified. They try to figure out whether there were, weather events. They're busy reading the books so that they can be able to find loopholes to be able to win. And if you look at the Raila-Ruto Pact, the so-called broad-based government, and they were crying the other day, the fellows from ODM, that they had agreed on a 10-point agenda, and nothing in that agenda was actually being implemented. And it tells you how notorious this regime and its supporters are in terms of following through on plans and promises. The sheer lack of seriousness in what they say they will do and what they do, it is actually astounding. You can imagine that Raila came in to basically salvage Ruto from a regime that was collapsing, that had totally lost credibility with the citizens. And of course, Raila and ODM, I hope they're honest, they decide to craft these 10-point agendas. This is not even an issue between UDA or Kenya Kwanza or Ruto with Kenyans. It is an issue between two friends or two frenemies, if you can call them that, that came together for their own survival and their own political interest. And surely, if you cannot implement those things, then what will you implement really? And I think this to me is the concerning issue, that we are getting into a period where the president, from his tone, you can actually see that he'll be more interested in the political formations that he can create, so that he has enough numbers, to win elections, rather than even basic promises that is made to his friends, leave alone promises that is made to Kenya. In fact, one of the things that we should be asking him is that, yes, we've given up on you as Kenyans in terms of what you promised, but you met Raila and ODM, and you guys agreed on 10 points. How far are you in implementing those 10-point agenda that you promised each other? As it is, even that one is a flop. It's not being implemented. And we had that very clearly a couple of days ago from ODM Secretary General Sifuna.
Thank you so much, Professor Alfred Omenya. Much appreciated for your insights here on this conversation as we take a look at the state of affairs here in the country. 30 seconds as we wind up. What will be the way forward? Just 30 seconds because I'm totally out of time.
I would encourage the government to reduce on taxes, to reduce especially on fuel. If the government wants to win the people's trust back, fuel cost has to go down, because if fuel cost goes down, food production goes down, everything goes down, and Kenyans will start being comfortable and develop the country.
Thank you so much, Kuria Kariuki, of course, governance expert and political analyst, and of course, Alfred Omenya, Professor Alfred Omenya, who is also a governance expert. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time and being part of this conversation this morning here on Amka Kenya. Let's do this again when God says we do. And of course, coming up is Remy Majala on Vibe Check.